welcome to class today. This is the second video in this series that we're doing of some beginners videos for young people, teenagers. So maybe you might want to watch the other video first, otherwise we'll get straight into it today. So we'll come to sit either on a cushion or a block. I'm sitting on both the cushion and a block here, and that allows me to elevate my hips a little bit higher than my knees. You can sit with your ankles together. You could sit in a more traditional kind of cross-legged pose, or feel free to definitely come and sit on your knees like this if it really isn't comfortable for you to sit cross-legged today. Just before we start, it would be great if you were going to be in a nice quiet space where you weren't going to be interrupted. So if we can do that, that would be great. There's a few things from around the house you can grab that we might use as a prop during the class. So I have two yoga bricks. You might not have any of these at home, so maybe grab two big books and you might be able to use those. We just use them as a little bit of stability. A yoga strap, and this could just be a belt or anything you have lying around the house that could do that. And I also have a blanket here, which you could use instead of a pillow. If you didn't have one, you could fold that up and you could come to sit cross-legged there today. So maybe grabbing those props that you might need today, and we'll come into a comfortable seated position. So we're going to take a few minutes at the start of class to ground down and settle into the practice. So sitting up nice and tall, closing down the eyes. We'll bring our hands onto the thighs, relaxing the shoulders. Maybe releasing any tension in the face and the jaw, so just relax the face. And we'll take our attention to our breath, just noticing where we're breathing in our body. Are we breathing into our belly or our chest? It might be nice to have our eyes closed at the moment. If that doesn't quite feel comfortable, you could just keep your gaze down low on the floor. So noticing if your breaths are short or long. Just the quality of how you're breathing today, relaxed or stressed. And then what we'll try and do is make our out breaths, our exhales, longer than our inhales. So we'll take a breath in and then we'll have a nice long slow exhale. Breathing in, just making the exhale nice and long and calm and as slow as you can. Make sure that's not too difficult or doesn't make you feel anxious at all. If it does, just come back to your normal breath. You might like to use a count. Some people like to maybe inhale for 4 and out for 6, or any number that works for you. Breathing in and out through the nose if we can. And we'll also see if at the same time as extending our exhales, we might be able to try and bring the breath into the belly. So you might like to bring one hand onto the belly, and as you breathe into the belly, the hand rises slightly. And as you exhale, nice long slow exhale, the belly contracts slightly. So we'll just focus on these 3 things. Breathing in and out through the nose if we can. Breathing into the belly. Belly expands on the inhale. Falls back down on the exhale. And a nice long slow exhale. Nice and calm. Make sure that we feel comfortable, shoulders are relaxed, stay sitting up nice and straight. And if at any time the practice doesn't feel good for you, just come back to breathing normally. Okay, doing a great job. We'll stay here for a little bit longer. Okay, I'm going to get started. So opening the eyes when you're ready. We're going to inhale, raise the arms up, really reaching up nice and tall. And then as we exhale, we'll bring our left hand onto our right thigh and our right hand onto our lower back. And we're going to inhale, a really nice long straight spine. And we're going to exhale to twist around slightly. So maybe you can take your gaze to the wall behind you. Maybe that's not quite comfortable. So just come to a place where you feel comfortable. And we'll take a few big deep breaths here. Imagining that we're breathing up the spine and down. Okay, one more breath here. And then we'll raise the arms all the way up and over to the other side this time. So left hand comes to lower back, right hand comes onto the left thigh. We sit up really nice and tall, inhaling up nice and tall. Exhale, we'll twist around to the left. Make sure we're not using this hand to kind of pull ourselves around or as a lever. We're really just using the strength in our body and our core to pull us around. Nice big deep breath. Nice long slow exhale. Okay, and we'll inhale the arms all the way back up. And we'll just take one big circle, bring the hands into the middle. Bring both hands up above the head, intertwine the fingers, maybe look up to the hands if that's comfortable, and just push, nice big push up. And then we'll move over to the right hand side, just for a little stretch, and then over to the left. Okay, we're going to pop those props off to the side. We can pop them at the back of our mat as we don't need them right now. And we're also going to come to the back of our mat. We're going to come into Adho Mukha Virasana, which is a pose we did in the first video. And we can walk all the way forward, bringing our forehead onto the mat. Knees are about as wide as the mat, toes are touching. And we'll take a nice big deep breath here. And a nice long slow exhale. Remember, you can grab a block and pop that underneath your forehead or a book or a blanket if you needed a little bit of space. So ideally we want our forehead in contact with the ground or a prop. Okay, we'll take our gaze between our hands and we're going to come up into our tabletop position. So really nice widespread fingers, ideally wrists, elbows and shoulders are in line with each other, and our knees and our hips are roughly in line with each other as well. So we're going to do a little exercise where we raise our right arm and our left leg at the same time, and then maybe we bring the knee and the elbow to meet in the center and reach out. If that's a little bit hard, you could just go one at a time. You could reach the arm out, then the leg out. Otherwise, maybe a little bit of a challenge for the balance. We'll take the right arm and the left leg out, curling round into a little tiger curl, and release and stretch, reaching forward, reaching back. We'll do a few of these. Really nice big stretch and really rounding the spine, tucking the chin when you come into the center. Okay. We'll swap to the other side. Left hand, left arm, right leg. Nice big stretch. Elbow and the knee come to meet in the center. Reaching out. Okay, we'll follow through with a few of these on this side. Nice big stretch. Reaching all the way forward, reaching all the way back. Okay, one more. Okay, we're back into our tabletop position. So we're going to come into our cat-cow, or Vidalasana. So as we inhale, we take the gaze up, lift the sit bones. And as we exhale, we round the spine, tucking the chin, lifting the spine all the way up as high up towards the ceiling as you can. And we'll follow through, inhaling up, exhaling round. See if we can still keep breathing in and out through the nose. You might even be able to close your eyes here if you feel comfortable. Okay. I'm going going to take our hands about one hand span in front of where they are, and we're going to come into our first downward facing dog of the class today. So fingers spread really nice and wide. We'll tuck the toes, lift the hips, push the hips back. Nice big generous bend in the knees, especially for this first one. We'll push the hips back as far as we can. Feet are about as wide as the hips, hands are about as wide as the shoulders. A little bend in the knees can be really great if your hamstrings are quite tight. If you've got quite open, if you're quite open in the backs of your legs, you might be able to push the heels towards the mat a little more. Otherwise, we'll take a nice big deep breath here and a nice long slow exhale. Remember, you can come into a resting pose anytime you need it, if you needed a break. And then we're going to walk our hands all the way forward up towards we'll walk our feet all the way forward up towards our hands at the top of the mat. We'll take a big bend in the knees for our forward fold. We might take hold of opposite elbows. Really allow the head and the neck to completely release. Or we could possibly take the fingers in line with the toes. Whichever felt best for us in our body today. Nice big bend in the knees. We'll take a few breaths here. You might even have a little bit of a sway from side to side. Okay, we're going to inhale all the way up. Arms come all the way up, palms come to touch. And then we're going to exhale, fold all the way forward, and we're going to come into our Surya Namaskar, which is our salute to the sun. Folding as we exhale all the way down into our forward fold once again. We'll inhale up to our half lift, nice flat back, hands onto the shins. We'll plant the hands, left foot comes back. This time we're coming into our runner's lunge. So remember, ankle and knee roughly above each other. We have the three options with our hands. We could have fingertips on the mat, hands on the thighs, or you might like to reach your arms up, maybe even like to take your gaze up if you're feeling quite confident with your balance today. So just finding whichever pose works for you today and whatever feels right. We'll take a nice big deep breath here and a nice long slow exhale. Okay, planting the hands, right foot comes back. We're coming into our child's pose. Forehead comes either onto the mat or onto a block if you need one. We'll take the gaze between the hands. We're going to scoot forward onto the belly. Elbows stay really close to the body. And we're going to inhale either up into our cobra. So cobra is fingertips under the shoulders, bend in the elbows. Or we could come up into our upward facing dog, which would be hands under the shoulders, tops of the feet pushing down. We would straighten the arms and maybe the thighs would come and lift off of the mat. So that's a slightly harder variation if you feel like you would want to give that a try. And then we're going to simply tuck the toes from wherever we are and come back into our downward facing dog. Nice big bend in the knees. We'll take a nice big deep breath here. Remember, you can always come back into child's pose for a rest if you need it. And we're going to inhale, raise the left leg up. Bring that between the hands, this time back knee drops. Fingertips either side of that front foot, or they could be on the thigh, or you might like to raise them up. Take the gaze up towards the ceiling. Whichever works for you. Take a nice big deep breath. See if we can keep breathing into the belly while we're here. Nice long slow exhales throughout the whole class if we can. Okay, so we're going to plant the hands. Right foot comes all the way forward to the left, all the way forward into our half lift. So half lift is nice flat back. Hands could be on the shins, or remember, hands could be on the mat as well. And then we're going to inhale, raise the arms all the way up. Urdhva Hastasana. And then we'll fold forward to do the other round, the other side of our Surya Namaskar. Exhale, folding forward into our big forward fold. Nice big bend in the knees. Inhale, we'll come up to our half lift. Exhale, we'll plant the hands. Right foot comes back this time. Fingertips, thigh, or we can take our arms really nice and wide. Take the gaze up towards the ceiling. Just whatever works for you in this pose today. And make sure if you're not feeling much of a stretch in the front of this hip, you would bring that knee back a little bit further to make sure you were feeling that. So we'll take a nice big deep breath here. Nice big long slow exhale. And then we'll plant the hands. Left foot comes back to the right and we'll come into child's pose. Remember, knees could be touching, knees could be wide. Forehead ideally comes onto the mat. gaze between our hands, and remember we can come into our cobra. So we'll lower down and we could come into our cobra with bent elbows, opening the chest slightly, or we might come into our upward facing dog, fingers spread really nice and wide, thighs lifted off the mat, gaze can come up towards the ceiling. And then we'll tuck the toes wherever we are and come back into our downward facing dog. Again, we'll take a couple of breaths here, but remember you can always come to child's pose if you need a moment. One big deep breath here, and a nice long slow exhale. Okay, we're going to raise the right leg, bring that between the hands, drop the back knee, fingertips, thigh, or full shape of the pose. Gaze comes up. Exhale, plant the hands, left foot comes all the way forward to the right, all the way up to our half lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, we'll raise up. Hands come together, and then we'll bring our arms down by our side for our mountain pose. So you can come to the top of your mat, and we'll come into mountain pose. I'll come into the middle. And remember, our feet are about as wide as our hips. We'll close down the eyes if we're comfortable. Arms are nice and strong beside us. Fingers spread really nice and wide. Maybe a tiny little bend in the knees so the knees are a bit loose. We might draw the navel, the belly button into the spine slightly. And we'll take a few grounding breaths here just so we can connect back with the breath, back with the body. Okay, and we're going to open the eyes. And so I'm going to grab one of my yoga blocks as something that's sturdy to give me a little helping hand here. Actually, I'm going to grab both of them and I'm going to pop them towards the front of my mat. So if you can grab something, you would be able to do it without it if you didn't have anything you could use. Just be a little bit stronger, a little bit more tough. So I'll bring them there just in case we need them. And we're going to come standing a couple of steps away from the blocks. We're going to come into our warrior 3 pose. So we're going to bring our hands down onto these blocks, and then we're going to kick. We'll go with our left leg first. We're going to kick our left leg back, and we might have our fingertips kind of resting on the blocks so that we feel as though we have quite a straight body in line with the floor if we can. And we'll take a deep breath here. This can be a really difficult pose. We could even bring our arms out by our sides if we felt nice and strong. Keep that right leg quite straight. Okie dokie, we'll bring our hands back down and then we'll swap over to the other leg so we could have our fingertips resting on the blocks and we could bring that right leg out. So we'll try and keep our hips square, so that means our hips are in line with each other. So this hip isn't reaching out too high, the hips stay quite nice and square. So hands could be on the blocks or we could bring them out by the sides, nice and strong. Breathing into the belly. One more breath here if you can. Okay, we'll lower down with that leg. And we're going to come into a really challenging pose called the half moon pose. So you're going to need one of the blocks there as a little helping hand, or you could do it without, be a little bit more challenging. So we're going to come a few steps away from one of our blocks. Maybe just pop one in the middle and pop the other one off to the side. And we're going to come and take our left hand onto the block. And then we're going to karate chop our right leg out behind us. Just give it a go. See where you can get to. You might also be able to raise your top arm. And then you might even be able to take the gaze up towards the ceiling. It's totally normal to feel really wobbly here. It's a really difficult, challenging pose. Sometimes it's nice to see how we progress over time. So maybe a few weeks from now, this will be your favorite pose. And we'll come all the way back down. And then we'll go on the other side. So we can come a couple of steps away from the block. We can bring our right hand onto the block. We'll karate chop that left leg out behind us. Raising our left arm, we might tuck the chin, take our gaze all the way up towards that top end. If that's comfortable in the neck, if it's not, remember we can always keep our gaze down low. And we might have a little bit of a wobble here. It can be a really difficult pose to stay in. And if you fall out, just come back in. Okay, great job. We'll come back to the middle. You can give your legs a little bit of a shake. Okay, so we're going to come into our tree pose. So you can come to the front of your mat. Bring your hands onto your hips. And there's a couple of options here. So we'll start with our left foot. The heel could come onto the heel. The foot could come onto the calf, or if you've got quite a lot of room and flexibility in your hips, you might bring the foot out and bring that onto the thigh. But we just make sure that the foot isn't touching the knee at all. So if your leggings or anything are a little bit slidey, you might find that it's easier to just bring your foot onto your thigh. So get balanced. Choose an option. First option with the hands would be to bring the hands to center. Remember, we are pushing this knee back just a little bit towards the back wall, so we're opening up that side of the hips. So first option with the hands is our Anjali Mudra, our prayer position. And second option would be to raise the arms, push the elbows back towards the back wall, and have the hands just above the crown of the head. So the elbows are pushing back towards the back wall, the knee is pushing back as well. And remember, where we look makes it easier or harder. So if we look down at the floor, it should be a bit easier for our balance. If we look in the middle, it's about the middle. If we look up towards the ceiling, it'll be the hardest, most difficult to balance if we look up there. So we might challenge ourselves. And just remembering that if we fall down, we just pick ourselves back up. We'll take a few more breaths here, pushing the elbows back. Nice big deep breaths. Staying really strong in that standing leg if you can. Okay, and we'll reach our hands out above, we'll kick that left leg out, and we'll come over onto the other side. So we'll bring our right foot ideally onto the same option as we did on the other side for some balance. If you find you can't do it on this other side, then you know which one is right for you. So we'll bring our foot onto the same place as the other side. Hands can come into prayer position in the middle. Remember, knees pushing back slightly, or if you look up for a bit of a challenge, you might raise the hands above the crown of your head. Nice strong standing leg. Completely normal to feel a wobbly here. Pushing the elbows back towards the back wall. And we'll just take a few breaths here. Nice long, slow exhales. Elbows are pushing back just above the crown of the head. The hands sit. A few more breaths. Doing a great job. Okay. It's going to raise our arms all the way up and kick that leg out to the side. Okay, we're going to come to the front of our mat again. Inhale, raise the arms up. And we're going to exhale, fold all the way forward. Nice big bend in the knees. And we're going to plant the hands and we're going to step both of our feet back for our downward facing dog. Pushing the hips back. Hands are nice and grounded. We'll take a nice big deep breath here. Great, and then we're going to come forward onto the belly. So we'll drop the knees and just simply lower ourselves down. We're going to come into our locust pose, Shalabhasana. So we could bring our forehead or the side of our head onto the mat just for a second. And we're going to bring our arms down by our sides. We're going to have the palms facing down. We'll take a nice big deep breath, or a couple of breaths here, just to make sure we're ready. And then we'll bring our forehead onto the mat. And then as we inhale, we're going to open the chest, lift the legs, stretch the arms back. So the idea here is to be really nice and long. So we're going to keep the gaze really down low on the front of the mat. And we're kind of extending the top of the head forward. So we're looking to be as long as we are reaching up. So it's not about the height here, it's about reaching really nice and long. Stay here for one more breath if you can. Okay, we're going to lower all the way down. We'll take the opposite cheek to the mat this time. And we'll just take one breath here. All right, and then we're going to bring our arms out in front. Forehead once again comes onto the mat. And then as we inhale, we're going to reach the arms forward, legs back, nice big stretch, gaze stays down low. Aiming to be as long as you can, so really stretching both ways. You can come down whenever you need to. Maybe you could stay for one more breath. And we'll lower all the way down. We'll take the opposite cheek to the mat. We'll bring our arms down by our sides and we'll just take a couple of breaths here. And we'll just check in with our breath. Maybe catching our breath if we might have lost it. Okay, and then when we're ready, we'll bring our hands under our shoulders and we're going to come all the way back up to our seated position. So I'm going to grab my pillow. So coming to sit, we're going to come to sit in a cross-legged position. So bringing your pillow and maybe your prop as well if you need it, and we'll grab our strap too, just so it's handy because we will need it in a moment. Okay, so we're going to come to sit nice and comfortably. And we're going to bring the soles of our feet together. Sorry, I said cross-legged. I meant to say we're going to bring the soles of our feet together. So we're going to come and sit on our block. Make sure we're nice and comfy, or sit on our cushion. Make sure we're nice and comfy. And you bring the soles of the feet together. So they can be quite close. If that's really too uncomfortable, you can bring the feet a little further away. Otherwise, we'll come to a place where you feel quite nice and comfortable. We're going to sit up really nice and tall to start with. Maybe we could close the eyes down. We'll relax the shoulders. This is our bound ankle pose, Baddha Konasana. Really great for opening up the hips. Okay, so this might be where we stay. If this is already challenging, I'd invite you to stay in this first position. And that was where you would get the most benefit from the pose. If you felt like that wasn't very challenging, you could lean forward slightly and you could intertwine your fingers and bring them around your toes. So we're leaning forward and our spine is quite nice and straight, maybe a little bit rounded. And we'll take a few breaths. And once again, if you felt really comfortable here and like you had further to go and you weren't going to compromise by just kind of hunching over and down, you might come down a little bit further. You can keep your hands around your toes. You could use your elbows to kind of help guide your legs, your knees down slightly. Or you could bring your arms out in front of you if you felt like coming further down today. So we're in a few of our cool down poses now. So let's just see if we can take some nice, slow, relaxing breaths. And just make sure that this is a nice, gentle practice. So we're not pushing ourselves here. We're not doing anything that's really uncomfortable or that doesn't make us feel very well. Doesn't make us feel very good. Okay. So coming to focus on our nice, long, slow exhales once again. Just a few more breaths here. We'll walk our hands back up to our body, or we might already be there. And we're going to straighten the legs out this time. We're going to sit up really nice and tall. So if we have a strap or a belt or anything we could use, we can bring that around the ball of our feet. And we're going to sit up really nice and tall. Our arms are quite nice and straight. The strap is nice and straight. And we're just making sure that our spine is our crown of our head, is lengthening up towards the ceiling. Our shoulders are nice and relaxed. And then we could also close down the eyes if we feel comfortable. These are our relaxing poses towards the end. So we're sitting up nice and straight. Take a few breaths here. We'll try and relax into it. This is our rod pose or dandasana. I'm sure you can feel a bit of a stretch on your hamstrings, the backs of your legs. It's also actually quite a good core pose, so actually a bit harder than we think to sit up straight like this. We use a little bit of our core to do that. Just remember, if the mind starts to wander, we can bring it back to the breath and focus on some nice long slow exhales. Okay, great, and then when we're ready, we're going to release the strap and we can pop that over towards the side. So we're going to bring our soles of our feet onto the floor, and then we're going to bring our left heel towards the right hand side. So this would be the first option. You could bring the heel in nice and close, or if you felt like you could keep both of your sit bones on the floor, you might bring that the foot over onto the other side. So you might need to come up a little bit higher on your block to allow that to happen. And we'll take hold of our left knee, maybe with our left hand. And we're going to sit up really nice and tall, and we'll bring our other hand onto our lower back, and we'll twist around over to the right hand side, just what's comfortable. Maybe take the gaze towards the back wall. If that's a bit uncomfortable in the neck, you could just stay in the middle here. You're still gaining some benefit from this pose. This pose is called the Lord of the Fishes, Ardha Matsyendrasana in Sanskrit. So we're getting a twist here. Breathing. Nice long slow exhales. Okay, we'll take our gaze back to the center and we'll unravel our arms and our legs, and we'll swap to the other side. So right heel comes towards the left side of the pelvis this time, and then we'll bring that foot over to the other side of the knee, or we could keep it on the left. We'll take hold of that right knee, sitting up really nice and tall. We might bring our left hand onto our low back as we twist around to the left. Maybe the gaze comes all the way towards the back wall. That's up to you. Just depends on how that feels in your body today. Okay, we'll come back to center, gaze comes to center, we'll unravel everything, and we're going to come to lay back on our mat. So we'll pop our props down at the bottom of our mat, and we'll come to lay back on the floor. So we're going to bring the soles of the feet to the floor, and we're going to come into our thread the needle pose. So our left heel goes onto our right thigh, and then we take hold of either side of the back of that thigh. We'll pull the toes of that left foot back towards the knee slightly. We can let this right foot just relax if we want to. And we'll try and make sure that our shoulders are relaxed into the floor. If this was a bit too difficult and a bit too tight, we could just leave that foot on the floor. We're still opening the hip there. It's still a nice pose. Or you could bring the hands to the back of the thigh, or if you wanted to come into more of a stretch, you could bring the hands onto the shin. So you've got a couple of options there. So we just take the option that feels best for us today. And we'll make sure that that right thigh kind of doesn't fall all the way over to the left. Stays nice and stacked above that right hand side of the pelvis. Then we could close the eyes down here, relaxing the shoulders. If you felt like your head was lifting really high up off the mat right now, you would just grab that blanket or a pillow and just pop it underneath your head for that little extra bit of support. Okay. Inhale, nice, long, slow exhale. We'll stay here for a little while just to allow the stretch to have effect. And then we'll swap over to the other side. So you can just directly swap. Right ankle comes onto that left thigh. Take the same position with your hands as you did on the other side, ideally for a little bit of balance. Toes of that right foot pulling back towards the right knee. And then we'll take a few breaths here. Remember, shoulders nice and relaxed. Always grab that pillow or blanket, pop it under your head to give you a bit of more support here. And we'll just take some breaths, nice, long, slow exhales. See if we can allow ourselves to settle into the pose. Remember, if this is really uncomfortable on this side, you can just bring the sole of the foot to the floor, just like that, and just let it rest there. And that's still opening up through the hip if for any reason I feel a bit uncomfortable or not quite right. So take a few breaths. Focusing on our breath. Okay, and then we can release and we can come to our final pose, our final resting pose, which is our Shavasana. So we're lying flat on the floor. We'll completely relax our legs, let our feet fall out towards the side. We'll bring our arms down by our sides, take up as much space as we like here, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Make sure our shoulders are nice and relaxed. So we're just going to come into a little relaxation. Take a couple of deep breaths here, allowing the body to feel nice and heavy, nice and relaxed. And then we're going to scan up through the body and just relax each part on its own. So we're going to focus our attention on our feet. And we're going to imagine the feet completely relaxing. And then we'll take our attention to our calves and our shins and our ankles. And we'll imagine that they're completely relaxing. Up towards the knees. Completely relaxing the knees. The thighs. The whole of the pelvis area, completely relaxing that. The lower back, the belly, the upper back, and the shoulders completely relax. Imagine you can completely let go of any tension. The chest and the shoulders, and then the whole of the arms, let them go, let them relax. And the neck and the head, just let them go, completely let them go. So now just allow the whole body to relax. Completely letting go. And relaxing the whole body. And then we'll start to wake the body back up. Wiggle the fingers and the toes. Maybe take a big stretch up behind you. And we'll roll over onto our favourite side just for a moment. And then we can come up to our seated position, keeping our eyes maybe closed or downcast if that feels comfortable or okay. So just coming up into any comfy seated position. We're going to inhale, raise the arms up. Exhale, bring the hands down through center, and we'll bring them to our chest, to the center of our chest. And we'll bring the palms to our forehead for clarity of thought for the week to come, to our lips so that our words may enhance the silence. We bring our hands to our heart as we thank the teachers before us, and we thank ourselves for practice today, and we say Namaste. Namaste. Thanks for watching this class today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you had any comments, feel free to let me know, or if there were any other videos you were looking to see. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.